what do you see as what is your summary, I guess, the executive summary of this trade deal for you?
This deal is better than no deal because we at least are avoiding tariffs and quotas, and that is really important to keep trade growing. So it is really the best of two not really very good options, but it is the better one, and it is important to have a foundation for the future because Brexit is not going to go away. Maybe it is going to go away by name, but I think there's so many more issues to be sorted out over the coming years, and we need to have a foundation on which to build. If we hadn't had reached a deal, that would have been far more difficult. But of course, this deal will bring massive changes for businesses, even for trade in goods, because there are many more formalities. These are administrative burdens, administrative costs, which are have to be borne by companies, and will they eventually be passed on to the consumer? That is the big question. So life will become more expensive, and of course, the world in this smaller setting, EU-UK, deglobalizes a bit, and that always has repercussions in terms of efficiency of the economy. So I think it is good that we've reached that deal, but change is in the air, and that's going to be having an effect on especially the British consumer and the British economy.
What is the biggest problem, Ulrich, for the German-British Chamber of Commerce? I mean, when I think about the cross-border trade, maybe just because it's so big in terms of numbers, car makers come to mind. You've got BMW, which owns the Mini brand over there. Of course, members of the royal family have famously driven Volkswagen Golfs. BMW is a huge brand. Mercedes, obviously, even bigger. Is that the biggest issue to deal with right away?
I think for the German car industry who only exports to the UK, I think that the trade deal is a relief because we've avoided tariffs. So that's important. And also for BMW, which produces in the UK as well as Bentley, I think for them it's also important that they can actually export from the UK to the EU tariff-free. So that is important. But how the future regulatory framework will develop, that's a key issue for them. Rules of origin with all the other trade agreements are still issues which need to be looked at. And then especially if we look at the interconnectedness in terms of high-level services, in some of your reports you mentioned financial services, but there's much more than that. And that will become more difficult, first of all, in terms of market access, but also with the new immigration law, which also is a result of Brexit, which will make the cross-border movement of people far more expensive and in some, or in a number of cases, impossible to provide cross-border physical services. So I think there are more issues there which will only emerge over time, because I think we've underestimated the interconnectedness of the European economy. So it's not just goods. I think services and not just financial services, is 2/3 of our economies, and that really has a big influence on future economic growth. So there are many more hurdles to come, and I think the detail will find out over the coming months and over the coming years, and that there needs to be a basis to really iron out all these differences which haven't been overlooked and haven't actually been properly analysed, so that we can actually carry on having this connectedness even if Britain is not part of the EU anymore.
So what's the biggest issue for the German-British Chamber of Commerce? I mean, where do your lobbying efforts go first?
So firstly, they go into keeping a regulatory alignment, and then also to have the ability for companies in our community to attract the right number of staff, and also to have easy immigration rules. Of course, Britain wants to have control over its own borders. That is absolutely fine, but it is the lack of skilled labour in many areas in the UK, and that's not going to go away soon. And therefore, there needs to be flexibility on this front so that companies can actually carry on working and operating in the UK to the most efficient level.